Emma Rodriguez sat in her wheelchair at the edge of the school gymnasium, watching her classmates practice for the upcoming spring dance recital. The 17-year-old girl had been born with spina bifida, which left her unable to walk, but her eyes sparkled with the same passion for movement that filled the hearts of the dancers spinning across the polished floor. The prestigious Riverside Academy was known for its excellent arts programs, and Emma had always dreamed of participating in the dance performances. However, the school's dance instructor, Mrs. Henderson, had made it clear that wheelchair users couldn't be part of the traditional choreography. Emma accepted this reality with grace, but the longing never left her heart. As the other students practiced their routines, Emma quietly moved her arms and upper body to the rhythm of the music, creating her own silent choreography. She had spent countless hours at home watching dance videos online, learning every movement she could perform from her seated position. Her bedroom walls were covered with pictures of famous dancers, and she had filled notebook after notebook with choreography ideas adapted for wheelchair use. The gymnasium began to empty as practice ended, leaving Emma alone with her thoughts. She rolled closer to the mirror wall and began moving to the soft music still playing from the sound system. Her arms flowed gracefully through the air, her torso swayed with emotion, and her face radiated pure joy. For those precious moments, Emma felt truly free. Unknown to Emma, someone was watching from the doorway. Carlos Martinez, the school's night janitor, had arrived early for his shift and noticed the solitary figure moving beautifully in the empty gymnasium. Carlos was a quiet man in his 50s who had worked at Riverside Academy for over a decade. He had immigrated from Mexico with dreams of becoming a professional dancer, but life had taken him down a different path. What Carlos saw in Emma's movements touched something deep in his soul. He recognized the natural talent, the emotional connection to music, and the pure love of dance that he had once felt so strongly himself. As he watched her graceful arm movements and expressive face, he saw not a disabled girl, but a true artist expressing herself through movement. Carlos had never spoken to Emma before, though he had noticed her around school. He knew she was different from the other wealthy students at Riverside Academy. While her classmates often treated the staff as invisible, Emma always smiled and said hello to everyone she passed in the hallways. She had a warmth about her that stood out in the sometimes cold atmosphere of the elite private school. That evening, Carlos couldn't stop thinking about what he had witnessed. He went home to his small apartment and pulled out an old box from under his bed. Inside were photographs, newspaper clippings, and programs from his dancing days in Mexico. He had been part of a folk dance troupe that performed at festivals and cultural events. Dancing had been his passion, his escape, his way of connecting with his heritage and expressing his deepest emotions. As Carlos looked through the old memories, he felt a spark of inspiration that he hadn't experienced in years. He thought about Emma's dedication, practicing alone in the gymnasium, and her obvious love for dance despite the barriers she faced. He made a decision that would change both of their lives forever. The next day, Carlos waited until the gymnasium was empty after school. He had seen Emma's schedule and knew she often stayed late to watch the dance practices. When she arrived at her usual spot, Carlos approached her nervously, his heart pounding with uncertainty. Emma looked surprised to see the janitor walking toward her. She had always been friendly with Carlos, but they had never had a real conversation. She noticed he seemed different today, more purposeful and less invisible than usual. Carlos cleared his throat and spoke in his accented English, his voice gentle but determined. He told Emma that he had seen her dancing the previous evening and was moved by her natural talent and passion. Emma's cheeks flushed with embarrassment, but Carlos quickly assured her that what he had witnessed was beautiful and inspiring. He then shared something he had never told anyone at the school. Carlos revealed his own background as a dancer and his deep understanding of movement and rhythm. He explained that he had been watching the dance classes for years, observing the techniques and remembering his own training. Most importantly, he told Emma that he believed she had the potential to be an extraordinary dancer. Wheelchair or not, Emma's eyes filled with tears as she listened to Carlos speak. For the first time in her life, someone saw her as a real dancer, not just a girl with a disability who liked to move to music. Carlos asked if she would be interested in learning some techniques that could help her develop her unique style of dance. The unlikely partnership began that very afternoon. Carlos showed Emma how to use the full range of motion in her upper body, how to create lines and shapes that were both powerful and graceful. He taught her breathing techniques that would help her connect more deeply with the music and express emotion through movement. Emma was amazed at how much Carlos knew about dance. His instructions were precise and thoughtful, and he had a gift for explaining complex concepts in ways she could understand and apply. She realized that this quiet janitor possessed a wealth of knowledge and experience that none of her teachers had ever shared with her. As their first impromptu lesson came to an end, both Emma and Carlos felt something special had begun. Emma had found a mentor who believed in her dreams, and Carlos had rediscovered his passion for dance through teaching. Neither of them knew that this was just the beginning of a journey that would touch many lives and challenge everyone's assumptions about ability, worth, and the power of human connection. Over the following weeks, Emma and Carlos met secretly in the gymnasium after school hours. Their training sessions became the highlight of both their days. Carlos proved to be a patient and inspiring teacher, drawing from his years of experience to help Emma develop her own unique style of movement. Carlos taught Emma traditional Mexican folk dance movements adapted for her wheelchair. He showed her how to use her arms to tell stories, how to make her entire upper body flow like water, and how to create dramatic pauses that would captivate an audience. Emma was a quick learner, absorbing every technique and adding her own creative touches to each movement. The janitor also shared stories of his homeland, explaining the cultural significance of different dances and the emotions they were meant to convey. Emma learned that dance was not just about pretty movements, but about communication, tradition, and the expression of the human spirit. These lessons gave depth and meaning to her practice that she had never experienced before. As Emma's skills improved, Carlos suggested they work on a specific routine. He had been thinking about a piece that would showcase Emma's strengths while telling a powerful story. They chose a beautiful Mexican ballad about overcoming obstacles and finding strength in unexpected places. The song's lyrics seemed to mirror Emma's own journey. Emma practiced every day, even when Carlos wasn't there to guide her. She would arrive at the gymnasium early in the morning before classes started and stay late into the evening. Her dedication impressed Carlos, who saw in her the same burning passion that had driven him in his youth. During one of their sessions, Emma asked Carlos why he had stopped dancing professionally. The question caught him off guard, and for a moment his usual gentle smile faded. Carlos sat down on the gymnasium bleachers and shared his story with Emma for the first time. He told her about coming to America with dreams of joining a professional dance company, but facing language barriers, cultural differences, and financial struggles. He had taken the janitorial job temporarily to support his family, but temporary had become permanent as responsibilities grew and opportunities seemed to disappear. Carlos admitted that somewhere along the way, he had convinced himself that his dancing days were over. Emma listened with tears in her eyes. She realized that Carlos had sacrificed his own dreams to provide for others, and that teaching her was rekindling something precious that he had lost. In that moment, she understood that their partnership was helping both of them heal and grow. Their bond deepened beyond just teacher and student. Carlos became like a grandfather figure to Emma, offering wisdom and encouragement that extended far beyond dance. He taught her about perseverance, dignity, and finding joy in small moments. Emma, in turn, reminded Carlos that dreams don't have expiration dates and that sharing his gift with others was its own form of success. Word of their unusual friendship began to spread quietly among the school staff. The other janitors noticed Carlos staying later and humming Mexican folk songs while he worked. Some teachers observed Emma's increased confidence and the new grace in her movements as she navigated the hallways. Mrs. Henderson, the dance instructor, was initially skeptical when she heard rumors about Carlos teaching Emma. She had always maintained that her classes required a certain level of physical ability, and she didn't appreciate what she saw as interference with her program. However, Curiosity eventually got the better of her. One evening, Mrs. Henderson decided to observe one of their sessions secretly. She positioned herself where she could watch through the gymnasium windows without being seen. What she witnessed left her speechless. Emma's movements were fluid, emotional, and technically impressive. Carlos guided her with the expertise of a trained professional, demonstrating techniques that Mrs. Henderson herself had never mastered. The dance instructor was forced to confront her own prejudices and limitations. She realized that she had dismissed Emma not because the girl lacked ability, but because she, Mrs. Henderson, lacked the creativity and knowledge to adapt her teaching methods. Watching Carlos work with Emma was both humbling and enlightening. Meanwhile, Emma's confidence was growing in all areas of her life. Her improved posture and grace carried over into her daily interactions. Classmates began to notice something different about her, though they couldn't quite identify what had changed. Emma smiled more, spoke up in class discussions, and carried herself with a new sense of purpose. Carlos suggested that Emma might want to consider performing their routine for others. The idea both thrilled and terrified her. She had never performed in front of an audience, and the thought of being judged was overwhelming. Carlos understood her fears and assured her that they would only perform when she felt truly ready. As their partnership continued to flourish, neither Emma nor Carlos was aware that their story was about to take an unexpected turn. Unknown to Emma, her mother had been keeping a much closer eye on her daughter's activities than anyone realized. Victoria Rodriguez was not just any parent concerned about her child's well-being. She was one of the most powerful business executives in the city, with resources and influence that could change lives with a single decision. Victoria had noticed the positive changes in her daughter, but hadn't understood the cause. Emma seemed happier, more confident, and more engaged with life than she had been in years. As a mother, Victoria was curious about what was bringing this transformation about. As a successful businesswoman, she was skilled at gathering information. Quietly and thoroughly, the stage was set for a revelation that would challenge assumptions, bridge social divides, and demonstrate the extraordinary things that can happen when people see past surface differences to recognize the humanity and potential in one another. Emma and Carlos had no idea that their beautiful friendship and shared passion for dance was about to be witnessed by someone with the power to change not just their lives, but the lives of countless others. Victoria Rodriguez was known throughout the business world as a woman who left nothing to chance. As the CEO of Rodriguez Enterprises, a multinational corporation worth billions, she had built her empire on attention to detail and thorough understanding of every situation she encountered. When it came to her daughter Emma, this same analytical nature made her acutely aware of every change in the girl's behavior and mood. Victoria had noticed Emma's transformation over the past month. Her daughter, who had often seemed withdrawn and melancholic, was now animated and full of energy. Emma talked about school with enthusiasm, practiced what appeared to be dance movements in her room, and had developed a confidence that Victoria hadn't seen since before Emma's teenage years, brought awareness of her differences from her peers. As a single mother who had raised Emma while building her business empire, Victoria felt a mixture of pride and concern about her daughter's newfound happiness. She wanted to understand what was causing this positive change, but she also worried about protecting Emma from potential disappointment or exploitation. Victoria's assistant had discreetly inquired about Emma's activities at school and learned about the girl's friendship with the night janitor. This information raised immediate red flags for Victoria. In her world of corporate dealings and high-stakes negotiations, she had learned to be suspicious of anyone who might try to take advantage of her family's wealth and status. Determined to assess the situation herself, Victoria decided to observe Emma's after-school activities personally. She arranged her schedule to allow for an unannounced visit to Riverside Academy one Tuesday evening. Victoria told Emma she would be working late at the office, then positioned herself in the school parking lot where she could see into the gymnasium through the large windows. What Victoria witnessed that evening challenged every assumption she had made about the situation. Through the gymnasium windows, she saw her daughter moving with a grace and joy that took her breath away. Emma's arms flowed through the air with purpose and beauty, her face radiant with happiness as she responded to music that Victoria could not hear from her distant vantage point. Even more surprising was the man guiding Emma's movements. Carlos Martinez, whom Victoria had never noticed during her brief visits to the school, was clearly a skilled instructor. His demonstrations were precise and elegant, and his patience and encouragement were evident even from a distance. Victoria watched as he gently corrected Emma's positioning and celebrated her successes with genuine warmth. Victoria found herself captivated by the scene unfolding before her. She had spent thousands of dollars on private tutors, therapists, and specialized programs for Emma, yet none of them had produced the transformation she was witnessing. This quiet janitor, working for minimum wage in her daughter's school, had somehow unlocked something beautiful and powerful in Emma that all the expensive experts had missed. As the session continued, Victoria saw Carlos and Emma work together on what was clearly a choreographed routine. The piece was sophisticated and emotionally moving, combining traditional dance elements with adaptations that showcased Emma's unique abilities. Victoria realized she was watching something far more significant than simple friendship or casual instruction. This was serious artistic collaboration. The routine told a story of struggle, perseverance, and triumph that resonated deeply with Victoria. She recognized themes from her own life journey, rising from modest beginnings to achieve success in a male-dominated business world. But more importantly, she saw her daughter's story reflected in the movements, a young woman refusing to be defined by limitations and finding her own path to expression and fulfillment. Victoria was struck by the obvious mutual respect and affection between Emma and Carlos. She could see that this relationship was beneficial to both participants. Carlos treated Emma not as a charity case or a disabled child to be pitied, but as a talented artist worthy of his best instruction. Emma, in return, was clearly thriving. Under his guidance and bringing out something in Carlos that made him stand taller and move with renewed purpose. After watching for nearly an hour, Victoria quietly returned to her car, her mind racing with thoughts and emotions she hadn't expected. She realized that her initial suspicions about Carlos had been based on prejudices she hadn't even acknowledged she possessed. Her assumptions about class, education, and worth had nearly caused her to interfere with something beautiful and important in her daughter's life. That night, Victoria couldn't sleep. She found herself thinking about the implications of what she had witnessed. Here was a man who had given Emma something invaluable, asking nothing in return except the joy of sharing his knowledge and passion. Meanwhile, Victoria had been so focused on protecting her daughter from the world that she had nearly missed recognizing when the world was actually offering Emma a gift. Victoria began to research Carlos Martinez, using resources available to someone with her connections and influence. What she discovered impressed her even more. Carlos had an extensive background in traditional Mexican dance, had performed professionally in his home country, and was respected in the local Latino community for his cultural knowledge and artistic integrity. His employment record at Riverside Academy was spotless, with commendations from supervisors and appreciation from staff members. More importantly, Victoria learned that Carlos had helped other students over the years, always quietly and without seeking recognition. He had assisted struggling children with their homework, provided emotional support during difficult times, and served as a positive role model for young people who rarely saw successful Latino adults in their privileged environment. Victoria realized that she had stumbled upon something remarkable. Her daughter had found not just an instructor, but a mentor who was helping her develop into the confident, artistic young woman she was meant to be. Carlos was providing Emma with cultural education, artistic training, and life lessons that complemented everything Victoria was trying to teach her at home. As Victoria considered how to respond to this discovery, she knew she faced a delicate situation. She wanted to support and encourage Emma's growth, but she also didn't want to interfere with the organic relationship that had developed between her daughter and Carlos. Most importantly, she was beginning to understand that this situation offered opportunities that extended far beyond Emma's personal development, Victoria's business instincts told her that what she had witnessed represented untapped potential on multiple levels. Carlos's skills were being underutilized in his current position. Emma's talents were being developed outside the formal education system, and there were likely other students who could benefit from similar opportunities. As a successful entrepreneur, Victoria began to envision possibilities that could create positive change for many people. The next morning, Victoria made a decision that would set in motion events that none of them could have anticipated. She decided it was time to step out of the shadows and become an active participant in this story, but she would need to proceed carefully to preserve the magic that Emma and Carlos had created together. Victoria Rodriguez spent several sleepless nights planning her approach. She understood that revealing her knowledge of Emma and Carlos's partnership required careful consideration. If handled poorly, her intervention could destroy the beautiful relationship that had developed naturally between her daughter and her unexpected mentor, Victoria's. First step was to arrange a private meeting with the principal of Riverside Academy. Dr. Margaret Sullivan had known the Rodriguez family for years and understood Victoria's position as both a concerned mother and a significant benefactor to the school. When Victoria requested a confidential discussion about expanding the school's arts programs, Dr. Sullivan was immediately interested. During their meeting, Victoria carefully shared her observations about the untapped artistic potential she had noticed among the school's students and staff. She spoke in general terms about the value of inclusive arts, education, and the importance of recognizing talent in unexpected places. Dr. Sullivan, who had always respected Victoria's business acumen, listened intently as Victoria outlined her vision for an expanded dance program. Victoria proposed creating a new initiative that would provide opportunities for students with diverse abilities and backgrounds to participate in dance and cultural arts. She suggested bringing in instructors with various specialties and backgrounds to complement the existing program. Most importantly, she emphasized the value of learning from people who brought real-world experience and cultural authenticity to their teaching. Dr. Sullivan was enthusiastic about the proposal, especially when Victoria indicated her willingness to fund the initiative personally. They discussed the logistics of implementing such a program and identified potential challenges. During their conversation, Dr. Sullivan mentioned that she had heard positive things about Carlos Martinez from other staff members and wondered if someone with his background might be valuable in developing cultural arts programming. Victoria carefully expressed interest in learning more about Carlos's qualifications, maintaining the appearance that this was new information to her. Dr. Sullivan arranged for Victoria to review Carlos's employment file and background information. Victoria was pleased to have official confirmation of what her private research had already revealed about Carlos's professional qualifications and personal character. Meanwhile, Emma and Carlos continued their evening sessions, unaware that they were being observed and discussed at the highest levels of the school's administration. Their routine had evolved into something truly spectacular. Emma's confidence had grown to the point where she was suggesting modifications and additions to their choreography, and Carlos was amazed by her creative insights and natural artistry. Carlos had begun to believe that Emma was ready to perform for an audience. He suggested they consider presenting their routine at the school's upcoming Spring Arts Showcase. Emma was both excited and terrified by the possibility. The showcase was traditionally reserved for students in the formal arts programs, and Emma worried that she might not be welcome or that her performance might be seen as inappropriate. Carlos encouraged Emma to believe in herself and her abilities. He reminded her of how much she had grown as a dancer and how powerful their routine had become. Most importantly, he assured her that art had the power to change hearts and minds, and that her performance could inspire others who faced similar challenges. As they discussed the possibility of performing publicly, Emma made an admission that surprised Carlos. She revealed that her mother was Victoria Rodriguez, the billionaire businesswoman whose name appeared on buildings throughout the city. Emma had been hesitant to mention her family's wealth because she had learned that people often treated her differently when they knew about her background. Carlos was momentarily stunned by this revelation. He had heard of Victoria Rodriguez and knew about her reputation as a powerful and successful entrepreneur. For a moment, he worried that he had unknowingly become involved in a situation that was more complicated than he had realized. He wondered if Emma's mother would approve of their friendship and their artistic collaboration. Emma sensed Carlos's concern and quickly assured him that her mother supported her interests and friendships. She explained that Victoria had always encouraged her to pursue her passions and had taught her to value people for their character rather than their social status. Emma emphasized that her relationship with Carlos was precious to her precisely because he had never treated her as a wealthy person's daughter. But simply as Emma, Carlos felt reassured by Emma's words. And he realized that learning about her family's background didn't change anything fundamental about their relationship. Emma is still the dedicated, talented young woman he had come to care about as if she were his own granddaughter. If anything, knowing about her family's influence made him more determined to help her succeed as a dancer. Victoria, meanwhile, had been working behind the scenes to create opportunities for her daughter and Carlos without revealing her knowledge of their partnership. She finalized the details of her arts initiative funding and worked with Dr. Sullivan to develop a plan for implementation. They decided to announce the new program at the Spring Arts Showcase, making it a celebration of the school's commitment to inclusive arts education. As part of the new initiative, Victoria arranged for several guest instructors to visit the school and conduct workshops with interested students. She made sure that one of these instructors was a specialist in adaptive dance techniques, who could work with students facing physical challenges. Victoria also suggested that the school recognize existing staff members who had shown aptitude for arts instruction, positioning Carlos to be officially acknowledged for his knowledge and skills. Victoria's plan was elegant in its complexity. She was creating a framework that would allow Emma and Carlos's relationship to continue and flourish within the official structure of the school. At the same time, she was opening doors for other students who might benefit from similar opportunities and ensuring that talented individuals like Carlos received recognition and appropriate compensation for their contributions. The announcement of the new arts initiative generated excitement throughout the Riverside Academy community. Students were intrigued by the promise of new opportunities and the chance to work with diverse instructors. Faculty members were pleased by the additional resources and the school's commitment to expanding educational offerings. Emma was thrilled when she learned about the new program. Though she didn't realize her mother's role in its creation, she saw it as validation of everything Carlos had taught her about the universal power of dance and the importance of cultural exchange. Carlos was equally excited, viewing the initiative as an opportunity to share his knowledge with more students while continuing to work with Emma as the Spring Arts Showcase approached. Both Emma and Carlos felt ready to share their work with the world. They had no idea that Victoria would be in the audience, watching her daughter perform publicly for the first time, and that this performance would mark the beginning of transformations that would extend far beyond their personal relationship. The evening of the Spring Arts Showcase arrived with an electricity that filled every corner of Riverside Academy. The school's auditorium was packed with parents, students, faculty, and community members eager to see the culmination of months of artistic preparation. Victoria Rodriguez sat in the audience, her heart pounding with anticipation and nervousness as she waited to see her daughter perform. Victoria had arranged to sit in a section where she could observe both the stage and the audience reactions. She wanted to witness not only Emma's performance but also how the school community would respond to seeing one of their own in a completely new light. Victoria understood that this evening would be a test of the values and openness that Riverside Academy claimed to embrace. The showcase featured the usual presentations from the school's established arts programs. The orchestra performed classical pieces. The drama club presented scenes from Shakespeare, and the formal dance classes demonstrated ballet and contemporary choreography. Each performance was polished and professional, reflecting the high standards and extensive training that the school's arts programs were known for. As the evening progressed, Dr. Sullivan took the stage to make a special announcement about the new inclusive arts initiative that would begin the following semester. She spoke about the importance of recognizing artistic talent in all its forms and the value of learning from instructors who brought diverse cultural backgrounds and life experiences to their teaching. The principal then introduced what she described as a special preview of the kind of innovative programming the new initiative would support. She explained that the next performance would demonstrate the beautiful results that could emerge when talented individuals found each other and worked together to create something extraordinary. Emma waited in the wings with Carlos, both of them dressed in traditional Mexican performance attire that Carlos had helped her select. Emma wore a beautiful white blouse with colorful embroidered flowers and a flowing skirt that would move gracefully with her wheelchair. Carlos had chosen a guayabera shirt and dark pants that honored his cultural heritage while maintaining the dignity appropriate for the occasion. As their names were announced, Carlos wheeled Emma onto the stage, positioning her in the spotlight before taking his place at the side where he could guide her through their performance. The auditorium fell silent as the opening notes of their chosen music filled the space. The song was a traditional Mexican ballad about finding strength in adversity and beauty in unexpected places. Emma began to move, and the audience was immediately captivated by the grace and power of her performance. Her arms told the story with fluid, expressive gestures that conveyed emotion more effectively than words ever could. Her face radiated joy and confidence as she lost herself in the music and the movement that had become second nature to her. Carlos provided subtle guidance and occasional demonstrations, but it was clear that Emma was the star of this performance. She had internalized everything he had taught her and was now expressing her own artistic vision through movements that were uniquely hers. The routine seamlessly blended traditional Mexican folk dance elements with adaptations that showcased Emma's particular strengths and abilities. As the performance continued, the audience's initial surprise gave way to genuine appreciation and admiration. Parents who had never seen Emma as anything more than the quiet girl in the wheelchair began to understand that they were witnessing a true artist at work. Students who had overlooked Emma in the hallways were seeing her talent and passion for the first time. Victoria watched through tears of pride and amazement. She had known her daughter was special, but seeing Emma command the stage with such confidence and skill was overwhelming. Even more moving was the obvious bond between Emma and Carlos, visible in every shared glance and perfectly timed interaction. Victoria realized she was witnessing the result of months of dedication, trust, and mutual respect. Mrs. Henderson, the dance instructor who had initially dismissed Emma's potential, sat in stunned silence. She was forced to confront her own limitations and prejudices as she watched Emma perform with a technical skill and emotional depth that many of her formerly trained students had never achieved. Mrs. Henderson realized that Carlos possessed knowledge and teaching abilities that she had never recognized or valued. The performance reached its climax as Emma executed a series of movements that required perfect timing and coordination with the music. Her wheelchair became an extension of her artistic expression rather than a limitation, spinning and gliding across the stage in patterns that created visual poetry. Carlos beamed with pride as he watched his student shine in the spotlight. She had earned through dedication and talent. As the music ended and Emma struck her final pose, the auditorium erupted in applause that seemed to go on forever. The standing ovation was led by students who had never thought to include Emma in their activities, followed quickly by parents who were wiping away tears of their own. Faculty members who had worked alongside Carlos for years without really seeing him were applauding not just the performance, but the man who had made it possible. Victoria felt her heart swell with emotions she couldn't fully name. Pride in her daughter's achievement mixed with gratitude toward Carlos and admiration for the courage both performers had shown. She also felt a deep sense of validation for her decision to support this partnership rather than interfere with it. Dr. Sullivan returned to the stage to present Emma and Carlos with flowers and to announce that they would be featured instructors in the new inclusive arts program. The principal explained that Carlos would be transitioning from his janitorial position to become the school's first cultural arts coordinator, a role specifically created to honor his knowledge and teaching abilities. Emma was offered a formal place in the school's dance program, with accommodations and support that would allow her to continue developing her skills alongside other serious dance students. More importantly, she was invited to serve as a mentor for other students who faced physical challenges or who came from backgrounds that were different from the majority of Riverside Academy's population. As Emma and Carlos took their final bows, Victoria realized that this moment represented far more than a successful performance. It marked the beginning of a new chapter in her daughter's life, the recognition of Carlos's true worth, and the start of changes that would benefit countless students in the years to come. The evening had demonstrated the power of seeing beyond surface differences to recognize the talent and humanity in every individual. It had shown that the most meaningful partnerships often form in unexpected ways between unlikely people who share common dreams and values. As the audience began to disperse, Victoria knew it was time to step forward and acknowledge her role in supporting this transformation. She was ready to meet Carlos officially and to thank him for the gift he had given her daughter. Most importantly, she was prepared to ensure that this beautiful beginning would lead to even greater opportunities for Emma, Carlos, and others who deserved recognition for their unique contributions to the world. Following the thunderous applause and standing ovation, Victoria made her way through the crowd toward the stage area where Emma and Carlos were being congratulated by admirers. Emma's face glowed with happiness as classmates who had never spoken to her before approached with genuine compliments and newfound respect. Carlos stood nearby, humble but proud, receiving handshakes and praise from faculty members who were seeing him in an entirely new light when Emma spotted her mother approaching. Her joy became even more radiant. Victoria embraced her daughter warmly, telling her how proud she was and how beautiful the performance had been. Emma's excitement was infectious as she began telling her mother about the months of preparation and how much Carlos had taught her about dance, culture, and believing in herself. Victoria then turned to Carlos, who seemed suddenly nervous to be meeting the famous businesswoman face to face. She extended her hand with a warm smile and thanked him sincerely for everything he had done for Emma. Carlos began to speak about what a privilege it had been to work with such a talented and dedicated student. But Victoria interrupted him gently. She told Carlos that she had been aware of his work with Emma and had witnessed their training sessions from a distance. Rather than being angry or suspicious, Victoria explained that watching them together had been one of the most moving experiences of her life as a mother. She revealed that her observations had inspired her to create the new arts initiative, specifically designed to support partnerships like the one Carlos and Emma had formed. Carlos was stunned to learn that Victoria had been secretly supportive of their relationship all along. Emma was equally surprised to discover her mother's behind-the-scenes involvement in creating opportunities for their work to continue and expand. The revelation brought tears to both their eyes as they realized how much thought and care Victoria had put into protecting and nurturing their friendship. Victoria went on to explain her vision for the future. The new cultural arts coordinator position for Carlos was just the beginning. She wanted to establish a scholarship program for students from diverse backgrounds to attend Riverside Academy and participate in the expanded arts offerings. She also planned to create partnerships with local cultural organizations to bring authentic teaching and performance opportunities to the school. More significantly, Victoria announced her intention to establish the Rodriguez Foundation for Inclusive Arts Education, which would fund similar programs at schools throughout the region. The foundation would specifically focus on identifying and supporting talented individuals whose abilities might be overlooked due to physical differences, economic circumstances, or cultural backgrounds. Emma would serve as the foundation's first student ambassador, using her experience and platform to advocate for inclusive education and to inspire other young people facing similar challenges. Carlos would become the Foundation's Director of Cultural Programming, developing curricula and training other instructors in adaptive dance techniques and culturally responsive teaching methods. The announcement created excitement throughout the school community, but it also marked the beginning of deeper transformations. Mrs. Henderson approached Carlos and Emma after the crowd had thinned, offering a heartfelt apology for her previous dismissiveness and asking if she could learn from Carlos's teaching methods. Her humility and genuine desire to improve impressed both Carlos and Emma, who graciously welcomed her into their expanded artistic community. Dr. Sullivan recognized that the success of the evening represented a fundamental shift in the school's culture. She worked with Victoria to develop policies that would ensure all students had opportunities to explore their talents, regardless of their backgrounds or circumstances. The showcase had demonstrated that excellence could emerge from unexpected sources when people were given support and recognition. In the weeks following the performance, Emma and Carlos's story spread far beyond Riverside Academy. Local newspapers covered their partnership, and social media posts about the performance went viral. Emma began receiving invitations to speak at other schools and community events about the importance of inclusion and the power of mentorship. Carlos found himself in demand as a cultural arts consultant, helping other educational institutions develop their own inclusive programming. He never forgot his janitorial colleagues, working with Victoria to create employment pathways that would allow other support staff members to transition into roles that better utilized their skills and experience. The Rodriguez Foundation grew rapidly, attracting support from other business leaders and philanthropists who were inspired by Victoria's vision. Within a year, the foundation was operating programs in dozens of schools, providing opportunities for thousands of students to discover and develop their artistic talents. Emma continued to grow as a performer and advocate, eventually earning a scholarship to study at a prestigious university known for its adaptive arts programs. She never forgot the lessons Carlos had taught her about perseverance, dignity, and the importance of lifting others as you climb. Her college thesis focused on developing dance therapy programs for children with disabilities. Carlos completed his transition from janitor to respected educator, eventually earning formal credentials in arts education while maintaining his position at Riverside Academy. He became a sought-after speaker at education conferences, sharing his insights about recognizing potential in unexpected places and the transformative power of believing in students who others might overlook. Victoria discovered that creating opportunities for others to succeed brought her more satisfaction than any business achievement she had ever accomplished. She reduced her corporate responsibilities to focus more on the foundation's work, traveling around the country to meet with educators, students, and families who were benefiting from the programs she had helped establish. The wheelchair that had once seemed like a symbol of limitation became Emma's signature element as she developed her own unique style of dance that inspired performers around the world. She founded a dance company specifically for artists with physical differences, proving that barriers exist primarily in people's minds rather than in their bodies. Years later, when Emma and Carlos were honored at a national ceremony for arts education advocacy, they reflected on how their unlikely partnership had grown into a movement that had touched thousands of lives. Their story had demonstrated that meaningful change often begins with simple human connections and that the most important qualities in any relationship are respect, dedication, and the willingness to see beyond surface differences. The gymnasium at Riverside Academy was eventually renamed the Rodriguez Martinez Center for Cultural Arts, honoring both the vision that had created the program and the partnership that had started it all. Emma's senior portrait hung in the lobby alongside a photo of her and Carlos from their first performance together, reminding future students that extraordinary achievements are possible when passion meets opportunity and support. Their story became a testament to the truth that everyone has something valuable to offer, and that the most beautiful transformations happen when people choose to see the potential in one another rather than focusing on perceived limitations. Emma, Carlos, and Victoria had proven that a disabled girl's dance with a janitor truly could change everything, creating ripple effects that would continue to inspire and uplift others for generations to come.